Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. Let rain fall, let rain
Good afternoon and welcome back to Laurel Park. Thank you for joining us here on Today at the Races. I'm Gabby Gaudette, joined by Keith Fustel. We have 10 races on tap today, 11 tomorrow and 10 on Sunday. Lots of racing. We were talking about it before we actually came on air. And it's a pretty tough handicap.
Once again, the whole weekend is tough. It's chock full of value all the way through and through. We got a nice stake, though, tomorrow. The Henry S. Clark. Boy, did that come up nice. Real good job by the racing office, stakes coordinator Coley. I mean, cage fighter Rose Breyer, a horse by the name of Blacktop coming in from Clement. A really good competitive field for this year's rendition of the Henry Clark.
And plenty of really nice betting races on the undercard as well. We even have a pretty good handicap, a pretty good betting card here as well, and we do have some carryovers too, so we'll get right into those featured wagers and carryovers. And we started all off in race 5 on this 10 race program that kicks off the Rainbow Pick 6 carryover just over $3,100. That rolling super high 5 does take place in the first race, but no carryover there. And in race 6, it does kick off the pick 5 carryover, once again just over $3,100 in that as well. You have a pick 5 ticket, I have a pick 6 ticket, and we're trying to keep it a little bit lower on the budget, but again, you could easily spend much more money than that.
Yeah, I think it's no doubt. We got to be realistic about this card. It's super difficult. I don't want to sit here and give out a $300 ticket. Yeah, we may take it down. I think I've got one constructed for about $48. I think it's live. I think we got a decent shot to maybe get towards the last, but it's the whole weekend. You're going to have to dig. You're going to have to do your homework, but, man, you can really unearth some good prices. And I like some shots today on today's card.
I agree with you. We'll take a look at the current weather, and hopefully the rain in the forecast is going to bypass us here. As you can see, it's just overcast, but a beautiful spring day here. We are fast and firm on the turf. 10 races, 1:10 p.m. kicks us all off with race 1. So we'll get right to it. We have a lot of ground to cover here in race 1, 5.5 furlongs there on the main track, a maiden $16,000 event. And you'd think that the 8 Mountain Hero will get decently bet, looking to transition the form from Santa Anita.
Yeah, I'm going to take a shot against the 8. Tepid 5-2 morning line favorite, and 30,000 pretty much down at the bottom at Santa Anita. Really was unimpressed. I know the buyer numbers are there on this horse. To glance at the sheets, he really doesn't figure strong. In his last race, he had a perfect trip, sitting behind a 2 or 3 way battle into the stretch. He really didn't kick on. I know the winner came back to win. I got to take a chance to beat him, Gabby. I like the 5, Figaro. Good little formulator stat for Bernie Houghton. I know he's been a little bit cold since shipping in her recently. But he's 30% third off the layoff the last couple of years with a positive ROI, 14 for 48. This horse had a major excuse last time at Penn National. The 2-back race does it. It's enough, I think. He's got enough set up in here. Some questionable speed types. Jazz Player will be on the engine. Maybe Burford would show some speed first time in the new barn. I think he's going to get the right kind of flow and maybe stumble on by with Caramanos.
And going back and watching at some of his replays too, especially at Penn National, he does have like an awkward action though. His head is very high in the air, and I almost question his follow through. Is he, even if he does get the setup, he gets the pace that he wants in front of him, will he finally deliver? He did drop down to that bottom level last time out, and he did kind of shake it up in the latter half, but again, was the pace kind of collapsing in front of him, or was he closing? I was on the fence with him. I still do use him in the exacta, but the 8 Mountain Hero, I'll use because I just hope they go from the outside. I know that the 2 Jazz player is probably going to show some speed, but Mountain Hero, he's run some pretty decently fast races in the past. Again, he's another horse that looks like that might be the way that he wants to run. He might be another one that might gain some confidence on the lead.
Exactly. You see his better races. We're right up on the front end, disputing the pace. And so there's not a slew of speed in here. Be aggressive from the outside. Maybe you can kind of put away, intimidate the horses down to his inside and go on from there. So I'm going to go 5, 6, 7. I know Mike Dralis the trainer of the 6, does a nice job getting horses ready, fresh, and the 7, first-time barn. At Donnie Barr, he is 21% first after the chain of change over the last 5 years. So not a bad stat for that.
I'll use the 1 Drive at Night. He doesn't have a tremendous amount of gate speed here, but Nick Juarez in the saddle. He's a pretty good kind of gate rider, getting these horses into position early. And this is a horse who I thought it didn't look like he was necessarily handling the surface in the past several starts. So now getting to a fast main track, we could see things turn around here. We'll move on to the second race, though. Non-winners 2 lifetime condition, $15,000, and for the $15,000 claiming tag, 5.5 furlongs there on the main track. And this I thought was kind of a tricky race. You could go in multiple different directions. I landed on the 2 Katie's Caddy here for Carlos Mencia, and she was kind of aggressively sent at 7/8 last time out. Now on the cut back to 5.5. She just looks like a filly that prefers a dry main track. She prefers a little less distance in the 7 furlongs than what she did last time out. Not to mention she was dueling early with Better Way, who she was really sitting on go for Claudio.
That was Claudio. Came back, didn't run terrible, and got bet down in an allowance race last week. Katie's Caddy, I like to turn back in distance here. She actually didn't run terribly bad in a race 2 back in December, late December. A middle move against Lovable Lady, Dreaming of Bella. There's tougher horses right there, and she was caught wide doing it. I think she can save ground. Laurel does a nice job with that. She did with Silver Bouquet the other day. I think she gets a ground-saving trip from just off the pace. There's enough speed in here, some questionable speed types, that she can kind of go ahead and kind of plot on by late. For second, I settled for the 8. Just look at me now. I'm going to toss her last. A really tough trip into the turn. She was checked and shuffled back pretty hard. She wants things her own kind of way. She needs to be in the clear to make her best run. I think she's going to get that in here. Any resemblance of her 2 back and 3 back race, I put her behind. Question mark on the 3, Saren Reddy. I don't know. Tepid morning line favorite again. Had speed, a really good jump off first off the claim. Then they went ahead and tried her on the turf. I don't know what that was all about. She did get bet. Now jams back in to the 15, trying to recoup some of that claim money.
If she runs anywhere back to a race 2 starts back, she should be the horse to beat, because not only was a good performance, she definitely outran her odds, but she chased strong opening quarter fractions, and she really held in there gamely. Now, the question is, why the quick give up? Maybe they were looking for a turf horse and it didn't pan out. I don't know what it is, but it's a little bit dubious with the 3, Saren Reddy. The only thing about the 8, just look at me now, she's been burning a lot of money.
No, she
so
has,
maybe she finds the issues there.
Yeah, she can maybe settle. She's got Sophia down to her outside. Will go. I think she just needs that kind of a comfortable trip into the far turn. She's been in some positions that aren't real comfortable down inside and having it steady. So maybe this is the right spot drawing outside.
Okay, we'll move on to the third race, an open 7,500 claiming event, 5.5 furlongs on the Fort Marcy. And the 4 Swiget comes in off of a layoff since the 4th of August for Alan Goldberg. Just looking at some statistics for the barn over the past several years with turf sprinters off 180-day layoffs. They batted 26% and still a positive ROI of $2.07. Now, the layoff isn't the concern. The steep drop in for the $7,500 tag is the concern for me.
I did glance at that. He's 27%. I know that's kind of a start. I went allowance to claiming for that stat. He's 27% the last 5 years. So he fits. Lightly raced. Only 12 starts as a 6-year-old, but he got a little bit better as he got older into that 5-year-old season. He's going to be up close the whole way. I'm going to take a shot with a bomb in here. Hero's Notion, who's shown some glimmers of talent on the turf. The key is this is first time Claudio. They freshened this horse up. He flashed a little bit more speed on the dirt prior to the layoff. Catches the field, maybe doesn't have a ton of horses that want to go right to the front. I like to see Hero's Notion get sent here. He might take this field a long way at a good price.
I have that right down on my paper. First time turf sprint Claudio. This is a horse that I picked third. I didn't pick him in the top 3. I went with another long shot, and that's the 6 Thorny. Fergal Lynch now in the saddle, and I just think this horse might need an experienced rider. Fergal has had a lot of success so far transitioning his tack here to Maryland, and this horse has put in some really strong races, especially before the layoff there on the soft going. He was closing closing on a surface that really nobody was closing on. We saw Fantod take the field gate to wire. That was a pretty big effort. We even saw a big effort from him in the race prior. I know he's coming in off of a layoff, and it's his 11-year-old season, but he doesn't have to be too far back,
No.
and I think if he's tactically positioned, that could be beneficial.
Yeah, he's a horse that gets no respect at the windows ever. That's why I line him at 15. If this horse was in the barn of a, say a Kieran or a Claudia or whatever, you're looking you take the odds away, look at his speed numbers. He's going to be one of the favorites in this field. You're going to get value because he gets disrespected at the windows. This is a horse, right? Fantod, high bars, an allowance type of runner. So he can chase and hang around there a long, long way. I think that's a good live long shot there.
We also have the 5, and we have
classic
a replay of that last
All right.
race too. This old 10-year-old, King Leatherberry, no surprise there, trying the turf for the first time. This old 10-year-old with 71, or going back to the turf, excuse me, 71 lifetime starts, and he goes back to the turf. And you can see him kind of on the back stretch, and he does get into a little bit of trouble here.
Oh, no doubt about it. He's going into the turn. He has to steady going up into the far turn. You see him highlighted there, the 4-horse with the familiar silks for the Jim stable, the white with a little bit of orange, and it gets kind of shuffled back, checked there. Hard to give up 2 to 3 lengths. I know it doesn't look like a lot.
Especially
It's
then.
a lot at 5.5, and there's other horses get their momentum, but he's able to shift out and then finds a seam up 4 wide in between horses and keeps on running gamely. The horse on the outside puts your seatbelt on. A horse we liked that day. I know Stan had him picked in the gimmicks there, about a $90 winner. So hopefully you were paying attention to Stan Salter that day. But Classic Wildcat, a real game effort. Put your seatbelt on. Is a horse that fits at this level. I know he's had some trouble trips, but he's a solid type of runner for 75. So respect the effort for the 4 in this race.
And
that day, the 5 to today, Classic Wildcat.
he did seem like he started to flatten out a little
Just a
bit.
touch.
Just a touch in the latter half of the stretch, but that could be because he was coming on off of a little bit of a layoff there since late January, but altogether I thought it was a strong performance.
And he had to make up the ground that he gave up. He lost his momentum. He had to be used hard to get into it by the time the field hit the top of the stretch, but I thought he kept on quite willingly.
It's always hard to recover there at those 5.5 or 5 furlong sprints. Well, that's a kind of a wide open race, and you and I both agree that maybe the favorite could be vulnerable and opens the door to some nice priced horses. But the 4th race on the card, a maiden $25,000 event on the Kelso at a mile, and I really like this race. We have a deposit slip in here, and we have longing to travel, both coming out of the same race, and we'll watch that replay of these 2 horses. Longing to Travel, now trained by Neil Morris, gets this horse in for the first time off of Larry Murray. And you see this, we can see several horses actually getting into close quarters, but I thought this horse particularly was more compromised by this trip. We can see because Victor Carrasco that day is just really sitting on a lot of horse.
Nice.
You can see that this horse is perched and kind of ready to roll from there, and then he does get shuffled around a bit. So again, we saw several, you can see him kind of get squeezed out of there, but he's just holding steady on this horse.
No doubt.
Has no room to run, and really not a confident ride throughout the stretch.
No.
And I thought that he could maybe turn the tables here today.
I agree with you. In a new barn today, we've got Yomar Ortiz riding. This horse he was lacking room, pretty much 5/16 pole up in the mid stretch. Really couldn't get comfortable in finishing. Another horse in there was Zoo, who came on. 3 of those horses that key up against Soul Man, the winner of that race. So Soul Man's gone on to do quite well. He went down to Florida, ran a couple good races. I think a recent winner at Gulfstream. He switched barns. I think Motion had him back then. He's in a new barn now, but that's kind of the key rival. I'm going to go, we agree here on the 10, Swell Elegant. Take a shot with him on top. I think he might be the best value between Zoo and Deposit Slip, Longing to Travel, those 2 in there. But Swell Elegant is going to go first time gelding. He ran okay. This horse, I thought, talking to the guys down South Carolina, had a little bit more potential than really what he showed. He just really didn't show a whole lot coming out of the box in last March. But now I think he might be doing a little bit better. First time getting a little more focused now. He's good work coming into this race out of a really nice family, a turf
Very
family.
nice
Now the
family.
kicker is all those horses, they were on the female side. The only other one hasn't really run, the only male hasn't run great on the turf. But I see an improved effort for Swell Elegant. He and Longing to Travel, probably the better prices in here. Zoo has run well, though, fresh. His best number ever was off a similar type of layoff, so I'm going to use him in the mix as well.
All right, yeah, I agree with you for all those points there with the 10 Swell Elegant. I remember when this horse was going to make its turf debut. I loved him so
Yeah,
much, and he just
agreed.
didn't pan out. I
Yep.
think he's a horse that probably needed to take a few steps forwards in terms of, getting his head in the game, and maybe this is going to change everything.
Yeah.
A first-time gelding, as you said, a very nice pedigree, turf pedigree. On the bottom side, you have Vicky Tiki Tavi, humoristic, who was an 8-time turf winner. So I think, hopefully, maybe today, the light bulb will
That's
click at a nice price. It's about time there for Swell Elegant. That's races 1 through 4. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the Rainbow 6. It does start in today's 5th race. It's a tough sequence, and we'll tackle it right after this.
When it comes to getting back in the game, there's only one team to turn to. The team more high school, collegiate, and professional athletes train and recover with. That team is MedStar Sports Medicine. For more than 30 years, MedStar has served as a leader in the diagnosis, treatment, and rehabilitation of orthopedic and sports-related injuries. Ranked among the top programs in the Maryland and Washington regions, we offer rapid access to athletes of all levels. Let the pros who treat the pros treat you. MedStar Sports Medicine.
Welcome back to Today at the Races. We'll take a look at the Rainbow 6, and I did construct a little ticket. It's semi-affordable, and again, use this as kind of a base because it's tough. You can add on where you'd please. I am actually singling in the last race as well. Actually singling on the 2 in the last race, not the 4, but using 3 horses in the first leg of the sequence of 4, 5, 7, using 4 horses in race 6. 3 in race 7, just 2 in race 8, 3 in race 9. Keen on the 2 once again there in the last race. It's Billy the Bull, the short price favorite there in today's finale. First off the claim for Kieran McGee. So we'll talk about the sequence here, and I could have easily used 2 or 3 horses in the final leg, but you're doubling, tripling your ticket by the time you get to doing that. So I wanted to use 4 horses in race 6 and 3 to kick us off. We start off with race 5, a nice allowance optional claimant event, 6 furlongs on the main track, and we have a horse like the 5 Blue Moon Ace who won in debut impressively. We actually have a replay of that performance, and I thought this horse did everything right in debut.
Absolutely. Was up on it, was real eager, didn't break great, but then showed a really nice burst of speed to go ahead and get up into contention and vie for the lead. So you got some bumps around a little bit if we can go ahead and run it.
And then
there we go.
There we
Highlighted
go.
with the 3 horse.
And we can see him break from the gate, and he does get bumped and shuffled around a little bit. And this, you have to remember, this is a first-time starter. He goes straight to the rail to try to save some ground going into the first turn, even after kind of taking up off of his heels a bit. And then I thought he relaxed very nicely.
Yeah.
Sometimes we see, or he actually was kind of aggressive, but it just kind of looked like Trevor McCarthy had so much horse. His horse was so much the best down on the inside that it was kind of hard to rate him a bit. But he is very fast in his own right. And Keith, we do see sometimes horses in debut like that who are running off early, who are a little bit keen, who are pressed the entire way around there, kind of pack it in. This horse did the opposite. He kicked on.
Completely eager the whole way around. You see, maybe trying to drift a little bit. Trevor had a strong left-handed grip on him there around the turn, but he was just dragging Trevor around the racetrack, having a little bit of fun, and then boom. Once Trevor said go, let's go, let's open up, he opened up 4 or 5 lengths, and he's ridden out to the wire. I think he beat a better field than Bobcat. I know Bobcat got the better buyer number in here. That's why I kind of line it accordingly. I'm just kind of basing it, not strictly on the number there, but on the competition. I still think I might have Bobcat a little bit too high at 7-2. He'll probably drop a little bit lower off of that debut. But the other thing, that was on a good sealed surface. Maybe that was just something he really relished, and the other horses didn't. I think Blue Moon Ace beat a better field. Question is, can Larry Murray finally get one of these horses to win 2 in a row?
Back to back.
That's the key.
That is the key. Well, I'll back myself up with Bobcat because the biggest question is, can he duplicate that performance on a fast main track? I always find it, I always approach those kind of races with a little bit more trepidation as a horse like Blue Moon Ace, who I thought had more to overcome. We had Bobcat was kind of pressing to the outside, really wasn't tested at all, and I thought Blue Moon Ace probably got a bit more experience out of it. That said, the 7 hard hitter cuts back in distance, and and this horse has been chasing and fading, going the mile in the past 2 starts. I think Linda Rice has probably regathered this horse, deciding that this horse is better at shorter distances like the 6 furlongs. And not to mention, he's coming out of pretty decent races. I mean, we saw Donegal Mood go back. He ran poorly in the Bluegrass, but they thought highly enough of him to try him in there. And some of his back races I thought would suffice.
No doubt about it. The race January 16th at Aqueduct. Now, granted, it was over a muddy surface. You see who he closed up and beat. Tippett. Tippett was a horse I really liked last week for Linda Rice. Another Linda Rice horse had a brutal trip down inside early. You have to respect hard hitter. He's going to get a decent enough flow up front. There's some other speeds in here. Real question mark horse is Oz. What's this horse going to do? Reverting back, we see Chuck Peary. I don't know if he's ever had a horse run here, trainer Chuck Peary. So.
And that was a very fast race at Churchill.
Yes,
yes. He ran pretty well. So yes, that's kind of the oddball horse that you might want to throw into the Rainbow Six. But again, I'm just using my top 3 selections as we kick off the Rainbow Six. Okay. The pick 5 starts in race 6, a carryover just over $3,100. You took a stab at the pick 5. Similar prices, but definitely not easy.
No, not easy at all. If we can run the ticket right now for the pick 5 starting in race 6. Yeah, 2 by 2 by 4 by 3 by 2. I think this first leg, I think I can narrow it down to 2. I really like the 12, Proud Maid Marian, and the 7, Quartet. 2 in the next leg, 4 in the next. The last race, I agree with you there. It looks like Kieran's horse might be an all or nothing. The 2 going first time off the claim. I could see a potential pace meltdown in there, and I'm hoping Phil Schoenhall's horse, the 8, can kind of revert to coming from further off the pace. Last time he was caught up in the dual Gator Gold. I think he can come from a little bit further off the pace there, but tough. $48 ticket, manageable. Get a couple friends. If you want to go a little deeper, you're going to have to. You're probably going to have to. If I can get it with 48, hats off to me. I don't know. It's a real tough sequence, but it's got a lot of value right along every race.
And you are bold for just using 2 horses in the first leg here, just the 7 and the 12. I thought this race was pretty wide open, but if you have an opinion, you got to stick to it. And I know you like the 12, Proud Maid Marian.
I do. I like that horse. I'll talk about the 7 first real quick. Quartet is dropping from 25,000. Ships in from Oakland. A good stat for Cal Lynch, though. 4 for 16 with maidens, first after the trainer switch. 7 for 16 in the money with a positive ROI over $2. 9th place finisher out of that March 3rd race. Came back to run a 48 buyer next out. That would win this race. So, but Proud Maid Marian, I was impressed. It was kind of a tell last time with the source with Sonia Alexic with maiden 10,000. Got away at 14-1 with Trevor. Won't get away again when Trevor was attracting and got on this horse. If we can run the video of April 2nd, race 10 at Laurel, you're going to see Proud Maid Marian, the 4-horse, tracking the duel early. The eventual winner is outside. That's Champion Rose, the 8-horse. This horse kind of gets bothered. Loose horse there, bobbled unseated. The rider was Mary's horse. The maiden we're going to see her on Sunday. I had to check and get shuffled back. Trevor taking a look back, make sure nobody else was coming, that he didn't have to interfere with anybody else. But Proud Maid Marian really regrouped. And Champion Rose was a Corrales horse that was dropping down in class from 25 and just kind of had things her own way after that incident in the turn. I know she's hampered a little bit by the loose horse.
She made a nice little middle move there.
She does, and that's what I like. Proud Maid went up there, had to tip about 4 wide, and she sustains. She just wasn't good enough. But if you visually watch her to the wire, we'll carry this to mid-stretch. She continues willingly every step of the way. She does it right. She switches to her correct lead. Champion Rose just a little bit better. And
she's not even being asked.
Yeah, not even. She's basically under a mild hand ride. But she's clearly best. The best number you see there making a little run from 3rd was one of the favorites in that race who had similar numbers. I think Proud Maid Marian turning back a little bit in distance. She's going to have some flow up front. She, I think, can run down the 7 Quartet. Because Quartet does scare me. I'm going to concentrate clearly around those 2 in race number 6.
I'm using both of those along with the 6, my top selection, and the 11, Flint Hill in the Rainbow 6. Flint Hill is coming out of some pretty decent races now on the drop, but the 6, Bella Yolanda, I like the fact that Victor Grosco is in the saddle here today, and I do think that even though this is a long-time maiden, the 7 furlongs might be the trick here because she looks like she kind of improved going 2 turns, the mile and a 16th. Even the 6 furlongs is just way too short for her, and I can see if a couple of horses go out to the front end and perhaps the pace falls back a little bit, Victor Carrasco, will put this filly in the right position.
Going with a little bit more experience right here. I probably got her line a little bit high at 8. I think originally had her at 6. When you get a big field like this and you're trying to do more lanes, that's one thing people don't understand. We stay within a certain kind of number percentage, and some horses you have to raise a little bit.
I think
she
that's
was
about
the one,
right,
and
though.
she may slip away. She's going to be a little bit better price than I think is what she's been recently, especially with a couple other horses that are live in here. But a little more experience here with Carrasco.
Okay, we'll move on to the 7th race, a starter optional claiming event, Fort Marcy at a mile and a 16th. And we have Opie coming back locally from spending the winter months there down at Gulfstream, and she just had some really bad trips occasionally. You go back to the race, especially on the 14th of January, she was completely compromised going into the first turn. There's a short run going into the first turn at 7.5 furlongs. There was a horse who actually fell going into the first turn. She checked back, continued checking on, and once they finally dropped her in class a bit to the maiden $16,000 level, she delivered Joel Rosario back in the saddle. Jamie Ness, though, on the turf, first time claiming these horses for the first time going to the turf, 35%, a positive ROI of $3.18. So they really have been firing on all cylinders there.
He got her off of a lifetime best. The only thing that concerns me, she's outside. Well,
And
that's not the biggest concern that she's outside, because she's more of a closer. There was a wicked duel up in front of her last time, and she really benefited from it.
She did.
But will she get that kind of flow again today? That's my biggest concern with her, and what's going to be probably a short price. I think she's stepping up against some better horses.
I think another concern is the step up. I
Yeah.
mean, she is facing some better, but I'm just saying that her back races against higher level maiden claimers, she should have won in some of those races, but because of the trips that she got, she didn't. So I think there might be a little bit more class than what it actually screams out on paper. But the two Justice for Sheena, who you go with on top, this is a filly who's coming out of the strongest race.
I think she's run against stronger races. A good stat for Niles Seville, 7 for 10 the last 30 days, a couple wins out of town. ROI of 7 for 10 in the money, I should say, a couple wins out of town. ROI of over $3. And Gabby, I think she's just run against better. She gets a good trip. She's going to be tactically placed down inside of this mile 16th distance. She's won at this distance. Trainer had a horse, Lucius, ran a big race at a big price the other day at Laurel over this turf course. So yeah, the 3-back race really caught my eye. 50,000, 2 in life, welcome speech. That horse came back to run big. She's sitting right in a good spot, and it's going to be a square price. Maybe dropped to about 7 to 2, 4 to 1. You're going to get a real good price here on the 2 Justice for Sheena with Karamanos.
And you look at the pace of the race, though. My question for you is who is actually the pace setter in here? Because we have a horse like the 4 Dancing Magician, who I wouldn't be surprised if she actually shows a bit more speed. I went back and watched the replay early last time out, and she was kind of shuffled and taken back in the beginning stages of the race. She kind of circled and went on to win by just 3/4 of a length. But her back, I mean, when she was sprinting on the turf going 5.5 furlongs, she had a tendency to be 2-3 lengths from off the pace. So why isn't this filly showing speed at 2 turns?
I don't know what happened. Maybe she soured just a touch. I don't know. It's kind of odd. Maybe they just worked with her in the morning and said, let's go to try to rein it in a little bit. But they catch the field today, right? There's not a whole lot of flow in here. You see her only 2 lengths off of a 45 half mile. Yeah, she could definitely be up in the front. I like the 1 Where's the Risk a little bit for Michael Gorham. And talk about the other Gorham horse real quick, the 9 Irish Inspired, was able to overcome the bias on March 12th. We don't usually have too many bias, but I should say it wasn't a distinct bias, but was able to come from off the pace and was wide doing it, breaking her maiden first time out. I always like it when horses can break their maiden first time out. And then last time out, overcame a trouble trip to really switch on leads late, shifted out and came on strongly at the end at a mile 16 on the dirt course. The mare, Kinlan, Foles are 5 for 38 on the turf. 3 of those wins by a horse by the name of Power and Truth, who I think ran again around here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. And by Patio Prado, looks like this horse should move up there on the turf. We'll move on to the 8th race, a first level allowance, 1-turn mile there, onto the main track. And the 6 Holy Soldier is arguably coming out of the tougher races. You see Tasunki Whitco in the running lines. You see John Jones, Noble Bird even a few starts ago. Is today the day that this horse is finally going to deliver, though?
It could. Maybe I think it's a little bit inflated number last time, but did run good 3 back against John Jones, who ran a big buyer number when winning last weekend, last Saturday. here at Laurel. Once again, going to sit a good trip. Is he going to follow through? Would come down off of that number.
Maybe beatable, though.
Yeah, I think beatable at a short price. I like the 7, and here coming in fresh for Hammy Smith. Another first-time gelding for this barn, reported gelding, the 7 Unbridled Line. I thought this horse was going to kind of be any kind after breaking its maiden last summer at Pimlico, June 2nd. You see that effort over a muddy track, took pressure from both sides, kicked clear and held on. I don't know what happened. Tried the horse on the turf. No luck whatsoever. This horse is a fool to lion-hearted lady who really likes this mile distance 7 furlong distance. Unbridled Lion in a race where there's not, once again, a lot of flow. This horse, I think, could be fresh. He's really hammering this horse down in the mornings. I think they mean it here. They're going to take a shot. Caramanos had his choice. He goes here with Unbridled Lion.
Yeah, and that's actually an interesting move because he was named on the 4 Escandolce, my top selection here for Linda Rice. And Unbridled Lion, you make a couple of really good points. I can remember he did get into a lot of trouble there in that restricted allowance race here back in August, and now he's been really firing some sharp workouts there off of the layoff. And his numbers, if he runs his best number back, he should be competitive.
The race where he broke his maiden, now, little thing, he was 3/5 faster than an A other than. Now, that A other than was an off-the-turf event that day, but I'm Mr. Blue was in there. We saw him go up the ladder for Kieran.
Yep.
This horse, he could strike at a good price right out of the box.
I like it. The 4 Escandolce, though, here trained by Linda Rice, second time off the claim here for Linda Rice. And I just think this horse is better going a distance of ground, whether it's a mile or whether it's a little bit farther too. You know, he's had a majority of his races staying at 3/4, and I just think he's finding the right distance. Now, the class is the biggest question. He was beaten 4 lengths behind a starter allowance field last time out. We did see the winner, Rockford, come back to win the Kelly Kip Stakes at Aqueduct next out, getting a decent buyer speed figure. But I think this horse has a little bit more upside now, stretching back out to a more appropriate distance.
You look at the condition. That's the one thing you got to do when you're handicapping. Pay attention to conditions. That race, allowance 25,000 starter. Okay. That was for horses, non-winners of an A other than in 2015 or 16, you know, or to right. That was a really tough race. Yeah, Rockford came back to win. Some of the other horses in there, if I'm not mistaken, were old hard-hitting 50 claimers and stuff like that. Maybe mistakes place type of runners. That was a salty field. And this horse is a protect move. Reclaimed and protected, improved with blinkers, and since being gelded, Escandolce, I believe, is live here for Linda Rice.
Okay, race 9 on the card, the first half of the late daily double on this 10-race program. First level allowance on the Kelso at a mile, and this is a race where we have looking here, the 2 Enjoy the Show, I believe, is the morning line favorite and does have a decent amount of speed early, and this horse has just kind of been outclassed a bit in the past 2 starts, but nothing going against that. You see Generous Kitten in the running lines, Fars, Captain Dixie, some really quality horses that run into the 90, 95, even 100 buyer speed.
Yeah, kept good company, you know, getting the lead, just not quite holding on at longer distances. The mile really should suit the 2 Enjoy the Show. I'll go to the 7, Alan Goldberg's horse, St. Louis. It's going to have Trevor McCarthy today. This is another horse. He goes second time gelding. Put it together, first time gelding, and it was back in December at Aqueduct, coming off the pace. He had trouble early, was jostled around, and came back to run big. I'm keying back off that 3-back race at Monmouth. He was ninth, finishing only 2 lengths out of it. A good field. Dujac, the winner, 4th place finisher, came back to run an 85. I think he's kept the right company. He's an improving horse, getting better as he gets older here. First start as a 4-year-old and second time gelding.
Okay, the 10 Bernardines to the outside for Tony Dutrow. This is a horse who I think just must go from the outside. My concern is I think he's the fastest early, but it's still a short run going into the first turn. So they're going to have to get this horse to break sharply, go to the lead, save some ground going into that first turn. But he's very dangerous on the lead, and we have seen lately how dangerous outside speed has been on the turn.
Oh, yeah. No, we've seen it time and time again. Yeah, don't leave this horse out. He could shake clear and go a long way in this race.
I'll use Enough is Enough here quickly here for Horacio de Paz, who has been bringing out some really nice horses. Now, this horse kind of flattened out in the latter half of the stretch, but the blinkers do come off. The winner of that last race came back to win an allowance optional claimer, albeit it was on the dirt. But I just think he's going to really like the mile distance. He kind of he was running almost like a miler last time out, tuckered out a little bit at a mile and a 16. And now with the blinkers off, I'm thinking that this horse would run better, taking back a little bit more from off the pace, getting covered up, and just kind of popping out of the seam from there.
No doubt. I looked at that race. The number fits, and these horses usually are alive when they come in. A little bit of a suspect field, I thought, Gabby.
Oh,
And
yeah.
when I looked at the group of horses and what they did coming back, that was the biggest thing. And the other thing, I was wrong on St. Louis. Out of that race at August, it was a 5th place finisher, a great dancer. Came back, I think, ran a big in an allowance, and then was like 3rd in a grade 3. So St. Louis kept the right kind of company as well.
Okay, I like it. You'll get a good price on that horse as well. We'll cap it off with the 10th and final race here, an open 7,500 event on the Fort Marcy at 5.5 furlongs. It's an all or nothing proposition for the 2. Billy the Bull, this will be my single again. But and I was teetering on the fact, I like the 10 a bit as a closer. You're backing yourself up with the 8 Gator Gold because there does have a potential to be a contested early pace.
I could see a horse like Flavor. What a walk at, i.e. Flash. Play some late doubles or anything, mix around. Don't leave those horses out at prices, the 5, the 9, the 10. This race really could fall apart. But Billy the Bull, I guess the best indicator, maybe Fergal Lynch comes back to ride after being claimed. This horse has, like an Omni-Fig pretty much with some of these turf races going 5, 5.5.
Yeah.
I think he's going to zip to the front. He's going to have to deal with Devilish Gate, who's a fresh horse for Cartagena.
Devilish Gate might even be faster.
Yeah, they're both pretty quick in their own right. But I feel Gator Gold, he was kind of caught up in that duel last time. I think he's better sitting from a little further back, but don't leave those long shots. The 5, 9, or 10, maybe throw them in underneath.
I like What a Wildcat. He was closing behind Fantod Two-Stern in his 2 sprint races recently there. Gerald Brooks can definitely pop with a long shot as well and gets in with the lightweight.
A lot of stuff, Gabby.
A lot of stuff, a lot of talking. We're going to take a breather because Dave Rodman has to get up here with all those scratches and changes. Thanks again for joining us here on Today at the Races, and best of luck on this 10-race program.
Good luck.